but not at all. You can actually buy something as a first home buyer, get in there for the first 6 months, say 3 to 6 months, live in it, hop out of it, and just rent it out for the rest of its life. And it's always going to tick along, kick along, pump along always for you. And then in 3, 5, 7 years, you can dispose of that place, and then you can get into something that's your perfect place.
Yeah, exactly. And also, even though the rates are 9,000 a year, generally the rent on something like that the one we use as an example, is about 20,000 a year. So even as an investment, you're going to be positive cash flow for yourself. So one, you get to take that, you get a better cash flow. You've bought a property, you start that sort of wealth creation. And then to make it even better, you've got all these government incentives that are making it easier to buy. Mark, do you want to go through? There's about 3 incentives available at the moment for first home buyers.
Yeah, and I think that's a good myth that we've busted with first home buyers. You can rent out your property. So first home buyers, you can use your first home as an investment property after a certain period. There's no designated period. They say you have to show the intention as a first home buyer. Some people say 3 months, some people say 6 months, but I think 6 months is the safe one. Then you just rent the thing out. So first home buyer can have their first home as an investment property as long as they show intent to live in it initially, and then you can rent it later. But the incentives are huge. The incentives are, look, I've been an agent for almost 30 years. I've never seen greater incentives than what's on the table at the moment for a first home buyer. It is nuts. So first of all, if we use this property we're selling at the moment in Freshwater, it's an apartment which is 460,000. That is an example. A first home buyer has no stamp duty to pay, zero stamp duty to pay.
Yeah, and that goes up to 800,000 now for no stamp duty, and it's up to $1 million as a stagnant. Morning, Anmar, as a stagnant. So if at 800,000 it's no stamp duty, 850 maybe half stamp duty, and $1 million's a little bit off. So you can obviously Google it and get that time frame, the scale for that.
Then you've also down at $1 million bucks. Yep.
Which is huge, because that used to be 650 or no stamp duty paid up to 800. So they've really taken into consideration property prices, because we always had that feedback, Northern Beaches. They're like, you can't really buy what you want to buy under 650 to have that benefit.
Yep.
Especially if you want a 2-bedder. If you've saved a big deposit and you want to buy a 2-bedder, they're almost for a newish one. They're almost starting at 850. So that's big.
Using that Palomar as an example, normally someone would have to pay 20 grand on duty to buy that, and now that's zero.
Yeah. And then there's the other grant, which is a 5% deposit, and the government will back the mortgage insurance, where normally you need a 20% deposit. In this case, if you're accepted, you can use a 5% deposit and not pay mortgage insurance, which is huge, because if you're normally buying, say, that place for 450 grand, you'll need a $100,000 deposit, so you don't pay mortgage insurance, which could be a 10 or 20 grand fee on top, basically. But the government will say, hey, if you've got 5%, which would be $22,000, you won't have to pay the mortgage insurance. So the barrier to buy has gone from 100 grand to 22,000, which is insane. That can be 5 years.
It could have been 120 grand because you had an extra 20 grand. You had your stamp duty, you not rebated as well. So you had to have 120 grand before cash. Whereas now all you need for that one in Palomar is about $22,000. If you can get together $22,000, beg, borrow, steal, family, friends, help, whoever. If you can get that 22 grand together, you can be in an apartment in Freshwater. It's nuts. Can we bring that apartment up in Freshwater?
Yeah.
I want to show everyone this. And you know what the big thing here is? First home buyers, you've got to realise, yes, it's forced savings, which is it, and it's a nice thing to save for, but it is forced savings. But get this, the value goes up. And historically, a place like Freshwater, the value's gone up 10% a year. So historically, over the last 50 years, it's doubled every 10 years. So if that pattern follows, and it certainly has lately, is the little puppy here. If that pattern follows, this property at 449,000 is going to double. That means it's going to be worth $1 million when it's 2031.
Mm. And you've still got your genuine savings, your super, all on top. This is just basically, instead of having 25 grand in the bank, earning, I think, 1% or 0.1% interest, you've got a property that will be earning you 10 grand a year positive cash flow. So you make $500,000, 10 grand a year, make 100 grand that way. And then you've got the capital growth as well. Now,
looks a bit like Melrose Place.
Yeah. It's a good little pocket of fresh water. And look at that rental return, 380 to 420. So 20 grand a year, and you're paying 9 grand interest, which is massive.
Michael, is that the beach I can see in the map below? Yes. It's only it's only a 5 or 10 minute walk to the beach. You can walk to Manly. It rents really, really well. Lisa Novak's a fan of freshwater as well. But it's a cracker. It's a cracker.
Now, for our third reason, low interest rates, historic low. We've never had it this low. And if you're a first home buyer, ask your parents what they paid in interest. And I'm sure they'll tell you when they first bought 15, 16, 17%. Now at the moment, there are banks doing...
They'll tell you they had to walk to school in the snow up to their knees.
Yeah. And at the moment, you can get rates at 1.89, 1.9%. Which is insane. A few economists reckon it will go as low as 1.6 next year. So, but
really?
There's a few that reckon 1.6 is probably the cheapest it'll go, not much lower. They don't believe it will go into negative, but they do believe there's a drop. And this was from the economist who predicted in January, early Corona would go under 2, and this was when everything was at 3.5. Everyone said she was crazy. So she reckons a slight more drop. But then it will hold like that for at least a year. So next year they're predicting basically a small drop and then hold for a whole year, if not longer. So this...
Do you know what the problem is? Sorry. I'll cut you off.
That's all right. Go.
No, you go.
Yeah, so you're going to have that, regardless of the external uncertainty going on in the world at the moment with COVID, you're going to have this certainty of pretty much low interest rates, the affordability, because let's face it, if you can't afford a 2% interest loan on 450,000, which is almost half the price of renting that property, well, then you can't afford to rent either, really, if you've got your deposit. So if you don't want to be at home and you want to be out, it's far better for you to buy than rent because you're going to have more cash flow.
Would you take free money?
In what way?
If someone gave it to you for free?
Yeah, who wouldn't? Give me money.
Well, here we are.
Yeah. If you've got the 5% deposit, you apply, you're making 10 grand a year. It's cheaper cash flow than if you're renting. Obviously, the only argument is if you're living at home, you got money in the bank, fair enough. But a lot of people can't live at home paying no rent. Even if you're living at home, most people pay $100, $200 a week. So that would be the same as a 9 grand mortgage. So there's a lot of benefits there. Yeah.
You're positively geared. So the question is, guys and girls, for first home buyers, would you take free money at 1.6, 1.9%? It's almost free. When you inject that into property and you've got a rental return coming in, that's more than what the repayments are. That is free money territory. Would you take free money? Yes, I would. Lisa reckons no one's talking about the property crash this time round. So I'm not scared as a first home buyer this time around because look what happened in COVID number one.
Property prices basically steady, down a little bit, then straight back up. And it's done that every so-called crash where we've dropped 5%, 10%. How quickly does it bounce back? And we've said it on many shows. While everything is basically closed, the property the property market is the meal ticket for the government and for a lot of industries. For construction, it piggybacks off the property market. So no one's talking about a crash because they know it's the only thing that's going to be one of the only things creating a source of income. It has to be boosted up. It has to continue. If our property market and construction market don't, it's not going to be very pretty. So the stability you're going to have coming into 2021, you're going to have increased stock levels, so more choice. You've still got the fantastic government incentives, and you got low interest rates. It literally, I don't know how it can get much better than that, rather than inheriting a property.
If that property market rallies hard towards the end of 2021, I can guarantee you the government grants are going to come off the table for first home buyers. I'll say it again. If the property market in 2021 rallies in the second half of 2021, the government will take those incentives away for first home buyers. One of them, two of them, three of them, all of them, I don't know.
It is. All right. Anything else you want to add, Matt? I think it's a little wrap.
Dr. Mark says goodbye. And COVID, we are killing COVID on the Northern Beaches, by the way. The last 2 days, the numbers have gone down. So well done to everyone.
Amazing. Nearly 50,000
keep puppies on. Keep sanitizing.
And keep isolating.
Keep this up. Keep isolating. Keep the distance. And the Northern Beaches is doing really well. You guys are rocking and rolling.
Awesome. See everyone tomorrow. Cheers.
See you, legend. Cheers, man. Bye, everyone.